And good morning. Good Tuesday morning. Just getting ready to go out and get my car inspected. That's why I'm up so early. But keeping an eye on this storm, which is now a Cat 4, but expected to strengthen back to a Cat 5 before possibly weakening again as a 4 or maybe a 3 as it makes landfall in Florida. But if you've been paying attention, a lot of people are evacuating, getting out of these flood-prone areas where the storm surge is supposed to be just tremendous. Oh my gosh. But it looks like a lot of people are heeding the warnings. At least that's what I've seen. But the next update comes out in about 20 minutes or less. But it was downgraded to a strong Cat 4, just a couple of miles away from being a Cat 5. So it's right there again. It is the 5th strongest Atlantic hurricane on record for pressure when it went below 900. Unbelievable. Hopefully that won't be no Cat 5 or even a strong Cat 4 as it makes landfall in Florida. I'm just getting set up. Okay. A little chilly here. Alexa, what's the temperature?
Good morning, Bill. Right now, it's 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, expect a high of 68 degrees.
43 degrees. It's like winter. That would be like the average, not even the average, the high temperature on a winter day. That would be 43, would be kind of in the range. 43 degrees. I need to get myself a sweatshirt before I go out. 43 degrees. Oh my gosh. Oh, good morning, Genghis. All right, now that I got all these pop-outs, we can take some of these out. All right, let's see what's going on. Euro model. So that's where the storm is now. Let's look at Wednesday night. Looks like the Euro still has it going near Tampa. Oh, what was that? Yep. This is like the worst case scenario, to be honest. If it goes just slightly north or even a little more north of Tampa, they're going to get all that storm surge. And so are places down to Sarasota, all this area. And that's why there's so much going on here. Evacuations. This is serious stuff. Now let me look at, I think the American caught up with the Euro. Yep. See, that American always does. The American has it going right into Tampa. I always say that. The American catches up to the Euro model. Always, well, I can't say always. Most of the time, the American catches up to the Euro model. Not vice versa. That's why I always go based on the Euro model. It's just been historically more accurate, the Euro. So both models are pretty much in agreement on the same place here. So that's the American, and the Euro has it coming in slightly later. But look how close they are. The American was here, and the Euro's here. So pretty much hitting these areas. My God. Unbelievable. And this is late tomorrow into Thursday morning, early. And look at that storm surge coming in. But all the way down, Cape Coral. All this, that's just unbelievable. And we hear about this all the time, about the storm surge. Well, look what happened in Florida with Helene. It was unbelievable, horrible. So can't take any of this for granted if you live anywhere in these coastal areas. These islands got to be evacuated. If they haven't done it already, I'm sure they did. I know the other one was Anna Marie Island. They evacuated that. Let me just, somebody's messaging me, of course. Yeah, a lot of moisture. And the hurricane is going to be felt throughout the central part of Florida. So even Orlando's going to feel hurricane force winds. So this is bad for millions of people. Let me just message somebody. They're messaging me already. They see me go online. Boom. Now it's supposed to regain strength and get back to a Cat 5. That's what they're predicting. That's what they're saying. So I'm going to check Radar Omega. The next update's going to be out momentarily. Let's look at Radar Omega. So see, it's supposed to go back to a Cat 5 predicted, then back to a 4. Now it has a 3 right here as it makes landfall. Let's hope it's a 3 and not a 4. Regardless, it's still going to be impactful to this whole area. Major impact, especially the storm surge. But let's hope at least it goes down to a 3 and not a 4, even though it's forecasted to become a 5 again here. So this is something we need to watch. And the models still have it somewhere near Tampa, though slightly to the south. This is the American. They're using the American here because the Euro still has it going here. A little bit more to the north. And this will wobble. This will change as we get closer, so you cannot take that precisely right now. It'll be close to those areas, but we have to wait. You just got to wait as the storm approaches to see exactly where it's going to make landfall. But the thing is, as it goes inland, if it's a 3 here, it's going to be a 1 near Orlando and points east. Look, there's a 1 here. They're even predicting a 1 as it goes back offshore on the east side in the Atlantic. So if it's here, they're going to get pummeled over here with storm surge. on this side. All in here. They're all going to get that storm surge. So this is not good for the entire, pretty much a high percentage of the state. The Panhandle is not in the picture here. But everybody else pretty much is affected. And the dangerous thing about a hurricane, and another thing, isolated tornadoes in the bands. So you're going to have isolated tornadoes too. Storm surge, heavy rain, flooding, wind, isolated tornadoes. It's not good. Millions, they're estimating, when I heard the number, they're estimating that if it is as catastrophic as they are forecasting, this could cost $250 billion in damage. Think of Katrina, what Katrina cost. They're saying this could be the worst natural disaster in the United States, period, potentially. That's scary stuff. And you know how they talk all that stuff, but that's what they're saying. I'm just repeating what they're saying. I'm not just making that up. Just go watch Jim Cantori. He just mentioned that about a half hour ago. That's where I woke up. I put the Weather Channel on. And there he was in Tampa of the Weather Channel, Jim Cantori. And you know, if he's there, they always put him in that hotspot zone. And that's one of the things he said. This could potentially cost $250 billion in damage to the state of Florida. That's insane. So I'm going to go to NOAA because the next update should be out soon, if not already. Not yet. But let's look at the numbers. Well, let's go back. I want to see the numbers from before. The pressure's over 900 again. 924. Still a strong hurricane. So the winds are sustained. This is as of 4 a.m. local Central Time, 5 a.m. my time this morning. So the winds were sustained at 155, so probably gusts up to 175. 170. So, and it's picking up speed, forward motion. I think it was at 12. Does it say it? 12, yep. There it is, 12 miles per hour. So, let's see what the next update says. So it's starting to pick up a little speed as it heads toward Florida. And like I said, I am sure a lot of people are prepared for this now. They've evacuated. Those who are gone. I was watching, again, the Weather Channel when I woke up. And the traffic since yesterday on I-4 and 75 has been unbelievable. Bumper to bumper. I mean, at all times, even overnight. So people are getting out. People are going north. They're just getting out. So people are heeding the warnings. It seems so. The majority of people are getting out, which is good. So yeah, this should be coming out within the next 5 minutes. And we'll see if there's any significant changes. I'm thinking we should look at the satellite imagery to see what this storm is looking like. See this, let's put it in motion. Because they say it was going under eye wall replacement. And it weakens when it does this, but it also expands the storm when it goes through this eye wall replacement, which it may happen again. So we have to see. Now there's there is the science. Sometimes with the eye wall replacement, the storm can get weaker. It could stay the same or get stronger. You can look that up. There's no definitive real science that says it just gets weaker or gets stronger. Anything can happen in the eye wall replacement. So we just got to see how this thing gets its act back together. And yes, there is dry air that could funnel in from the north, like I've been saying for days. The drier air funneling into it as it approaches could weaken it a little bit. The water is 2 to 4 degrees above normal, so that's not the issue. Just not good as it approaches Florida. So hopefully there'll be some wind shear that weakens it a little bit as it approaches. But right now, you can see this thing is just churning, and it looks like it's getting larger as it goes through its eye replacement and heads east, northeast, and then it's going to take more of a northeasterly turn up. That's what they're forecasting. But that is a scary looking storm. Let's refresh. There it is. So the wind speeds have increased again. Now it's 145. The pressure's pretty much the same, and it's still moving pretty much the same speed. But it got a little stronger. It was 135, now it's 145. So it did get a little stronger again. So by this afternoon, we'll pretty much know more about it, because the next update's at 11 Eastern, then 2 p.m. Eastern. But to see if it's strengthening, it looks like it is on the imagery. It definitely looks. When you see those thunderstorms around the eye wall like that, that's usually a sign of intensification around the eye wall. Usually. And that's exactly what it's doing. So it looks like it's definitely trying to get its act back together. I'm just going to put the radar on this. Wow, that's nasty. I hate when the radar loops do that. Let's try radar Omega. I doubt they updated this that fast. I highly doubt it. It just came out. Oh, they did. They updated it. Look at that. Look at that. Wind speeds 145, maximum gusts at 190. Oh my gosh. I hope this thing doesn't come in as a Cat 4. Still the storm surge regardless. But, my gosh, 145. And expect it to become a Cat 5, which it might be a Cat 5 now. I don't know the category is breaking down the numbers. I would have to look. But it's really close to it if it already hasn't exceeded it. Let's see. Cat 5. I think it did. Okay, let's see. Oh my God, don't put Cat 5 like that, because then you get cables. Okay, let's see. Oh, now my phone's gonna go nuts. Actually, Cat 5 I think is 157. So it's not there yet. I believe it's 157. Everything now I look up is Milton, Milton, Milton. Yep, it's 157 or higher. So we're not there yet. Back to a Cat 5, but by this afternoon, it could easily be back to a Cat 5. But that's a strong Cat 4. But they're predicting this afternoon, right there at 2 p.m., that it will be a Cat 5 again. So that's just not good news at all. And then going back to a Cat 4. And they're predicting a 3 at landfall. That's what they're predicting. We have to see. Because look, it's a 4 right here. Not far. Not far at all from the coastline. So it's either going to be a Cat 4 or strong Cat 3. Regardless, is that storm surge. That is the major concern here. And that's that storm surge. So all the warnings are up. Look how much of the warnings are for the storm surge. Look at this, 10 to 15 feet. 5 to 10, 6 to 10, 5 to 10, 6 to 10, even in here. So they got the 10 to 15 all the way down to Englewood. And just north of Tampa. 10 to 15 feet. And look, 3 to 5 as it exits the Florida Peninsula and goes back over the Atlantic, and then when it's pushing the water this way. On the top of the storm, the counterclockwise flow, they're expecting a storm surge coming back in on that side. It's just horrible what's going on here. Really bad. Not good. We'll know a lot more by tonight. And then this thing is supposed to exit after it crosses Florida. Look at that. Orlando is right in the eye wall. And it'll still be a Cat 1 hurricane. That's what they're predicting, even as it is nearing Orlando. And then it's going to exit back into the Atlantic. And it's going to bring all that water coming in with that storm surge here. So this is not good. And then it's going to go east. And say goodbye. Now, I don't think there's any other systems. Not that we have to be looking at other systems, but I don't think there's anything else. This is the Euro. So it looks like things quieted down after that. And this is way, way long range. But right now, the focus is on Milton. So yeah, not good. I'm going to check Google Earth. So these areas here that are so prone, look at this. And remember, it goes all the way down. So they've got the warnings pretty much stretching all the way down. And of course, Tampa. They already evacuated this yesterday. I'm sure this is all evacuated. Because I would hope. Remember, they've got the 10 to 15 all the way down to Englewood. All the way down to here is the 10 to 15. And you just look at these areas. I mean, look at that. If that's not evacuated, something's wrong because they're exposed big time here. Big time. And that's far south by Englewood. Oh my gosh. I mean, look at this. Look how densely populated. It's Venice. I mean, this is all big time. I mean, the water going into here. It depends where the eye. It really does. Because we're going south here. Tampa's up there. It depends where the eye makes landfall. If it goes further south, Tampa Bay escapes pretty much a lot of the significant surge, but then places here are going to get it. So that's why they're looking at where it's going to potentially make landfall. If it makes landfall in here, this place over here, all this, it's going to get that storm surge. So, yep, this is a serious situation developing for Florida. Just think about that. Just think about that water coming into here. How exposed. And the Gulf, it's deep when you go out, but it gets shallow. It's almost like, it's not like here on the East Coast. We have that continental shelf that drops. Over here, it just inclines. So all that deeper water gets pushed into the shallow water area and just gets pushed up. It's different. It's a different setup. So all that water just pushes right against the shoreline. That deeper water just gets pushed to the shallow areas and just overrides it. I don't hope. Let's look. High tide. So let's look at. Let's do Longboat Key. Let's do Longboat Key. Longboat Key. High tide. Because this is key. I hate to say that, but. So high tide. So it's 10th morning, 4:43 a.m. Thursday morning is high tide. So hopefully this storm doesn't slow down and come in early Thursday morning. Like at 4 a.m., make landfall, because that would be high tide. But even on an incoming tide, with the flow coming in, so it could even be 1 a.m. That's bad. Now, what's low tide? The 10th, forget about that, it's the afternoon. The 10th, the 9th, low tide's at 12. My God. Low tide's at 12:37 p.m. tomorrow. Then it doesn't occur again till the afternoon at 2 on Thursday. So that low tide, that timing is not good. The high tide, it's not a good thing right there. So that's another thing to watch. Will the tide be high when this thing comes in? And all the rain on top of that. This is not a good scenario here going on. Now, I don't know what the euro, what the timing is. Let's see. Again, I don't go to the American. I use the euro. All right, let's get zoomed in. This is Thursday morning. Thursday, 3 a.m. 3 a.m. Four a.m. High tide. And Longboat Key is right there at 4 a.m. That's bad. That's like really not good. To have high tide pretty much happening at the same time this thing makes landfall. And it all depends, you know, this model could be wrong. It could come in sooner, pick up speed. It could slow down. But the Euro model showing it right there, 4 a.m. coming in. Here's Longboat Key. And Longboat Keys at Thursday morning. Low tide is 4:43 a.m. I mean high tide. High tide is at 4:43 a.m. So it's going to be close that this happens during high tide. So I'm sure they're watching that too. And this is an unusual situation because usually the hurricanes ride up the west Gulf Coast of Florida and it brings that shallow water and pushes it in. This is coming in from the west directly into Tampa. So that's why the water's being pushed that way. This is horrible. If it was riding up, it's a little different. But when it's coming in, it brings that surge right in. Because it's coming from a different angle. Like I said, if it was moving more north, you'd have, yes, you'd be on the right side of the quadrant, but the water's pretty much running parallel with the shoreline. It's going up. It's pushing the water, that shallow water, in and up. This is coming in. So it brings that whole rush of water with it in. That forward motion. It's different, which is the worst case scenario for Tampa. And that's why people are getting out of there. Thank God. And it's going to be felt, the impacts, all the way down. I mean, they're saying this because it's going through an eye wall replacement cycle. The storm tends to get larger. It's going through all kinds of motions right now, and it may go through another eye wall replacement before it makes landfall. But the storm is large. It's a large wind field, which is going to bring a lot of surge to a lot of areas. So this is not good. And I pray to God that people are taking the warnings. Because right now, both models are like identical. They've narrowed. They're pretty much the same now. The Euro and the American, they're pretty much exactly the same. So that says high probability now. When they agree that close, it's a high probability that it's coming in. That's the Euro, which is bad because that's like the worst case scenario for Tampa, just to the north. And if this would even go even more to the north, it'd even be worse. But regardless, it's still going to affect all these other places. And then you have, like I said, the American, which the timing is different. See, the American already has it in. And the American has it here. But earlier, late Wednesday, very early Thursday. But look where the American is and look where the Euro was. The American has the eye here. The Euro has it here. That's close. That's how they really come together on agreement here. They're really close. So that kind of tells you the Euro and the American are like, look at that. American, Euro, very close. So that tells you the cone has definitely been shrank down. It's narrow. We should look at the cone. Oh, we got to go back to NOAA. I just hope it doesn't happen at high tide. I really hope it doesn't happen at high tide. So let's look at the warning cones. Okay, let's go to this one. Still though, they still have it a little bit open there. They still do. By tonight, that's going to get narrow. Definitely by tonight. But this is a strong hurricane. This is a Cat 4. It's, like I said, they're predicting a Cat 3 when it makes landfall. That's what they're predicting. But it'll be a strong Cat 3 or a moderate Cat 4 because it's predicted to be a Cat 4 right here. Look at that. 145 sustained. Gust at 175. It's right offshore. Look at Florida's coastline. But look at the 3 here as it makes landfall. 125, 155 still. Serious hurricane. Even if it was to go down to a 3. It's still a major hurricane. And you can see pretty much the cone, how far north it goes still, and how south it goes. So Cape Coral is still on the edge of that cone, the cone of uncertainty. Not likely. It's more likely to be here somewhere, but can't discount it. And almost up to Cedar Key. So this whole area. And then, of course, it's going to affect inland as a hurricane, wherever it goes. And then get back into the Atlantic as a Cat 1. So it will be a hurricane the whole time duration as it goes over the Florida Peninsula. It's not going to weaken to a tropical storm or a depression. It's going to remain a hurricane the entire time as it crosses over from west to east. So the whole state is going to have to deal with hurricane force winds, the rain, isolated tornadoes, the storm surge on the coastal areas. It's horrible. Now I want to check something. Okay. I don't think they're going to really talk about it. What I'm looking for. I'm still trying. Well, the heat went on. It's so cold in this house. Okay, let me see. I don't think they're going to talk about it yet. And still, that doesn't even count the cost of Helene. So this could range right up there with it. Horrible. I'm just seeing if Florida news, what's going on there. I'm looking for their local news. Let's look at the Orlando Sentinel. You would think that in the Orlando paper, and it doesn't. That's horrible. That is just like horrible. They have it a little red banner, but they have a whole bunch of other stuff. That's horrible. It says here, the National Hurricane Center Senior Hurricane Specialist John Cangialosi says, in quotes, Milton has the potential to be one of the most destructive hurricanes on record for West Central Florida. The latest forecast, this is coming from Orlando Sentinel. The latest forecast tracks ranges from Cape Coral, which I said, in southwest Florida's Gulf Coast north up to Yankeetown. But the consensus path remains targeted at Tampa Bay, with landfall after midnight Thursday, still a major Category 3 hurricane, which we saw on the map. The forecast track has it passing south of Lakeland and Kissimmee, heading toward Cape Canaveral, never losing hurricane status, which I just said, as it crosses the state into the Atlantic. It's like repeating what I just said. Its hurricane force winds only extend 30 miles, but tropical force winds have begun to expand now out to 105 miles. The result of eye wall replacement cycle, which we already discussed. It's still a relatively compact hurricane, but the wind field is expected to continue to grow in size as it approaches Florida. The forecast shows both hurricane and tropical storm force winds roughly doubling in size by landfall. Therefore, damaging winds, life-threatening storm surge, and heavy rain will extend well outside the forecast zone. This is his quotes. It's worth emphasizing that this is a very serious situation and residents of Florida should closely follow orders from their local emergency management officials. End quote. So that's from a senior hurricane official from the National Hurricane Center. So they've got, of course, we know about all the warnings. They're talking about the past storms that affected Florida on here. We're talking about updated storm surge predictions now call for 10 to 15 feet from Tampa down to Englewood, including Tampa Bay. We're talking about storm surge values higher than the ceiling. Said Florida Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie. Please, if you're in the Tampa Bay area, you need to evacuate. If they have called for your evacuation order, I beg you, I implore you to evacuate. Drowning deaths due to the storm surge are 100% preventable if you leave. Evacuations of much of Florida's West Coast barrier islands have already begun, I would think. That's what I said earlier. They should be evacuated. Quote again, we had situations where people died of drowning in Hurricane Ian. Had they just gone across the bridge from Estero Bay, Sanibel Island, and so on, just across the bridge to the first available shelter that had capacity, they'd still be alive today, end quote. The National Hurricane Center also warns 6 to 10 feet could be seen from Englewood south to Bonita Beach, including Charlotte Harbor. 5 to 10 feet from the Anclote River, north to Yankeetown. 4 to 7 feet from Bonita Beach, south to I can't even say it. Chokoloski. 3 to 5 feet from Yankeetown, north to the Suwannee River, and the east coast of the Flagler-Volusia County line, north to the Altamaha Sound, Georgia. Wow, all the way up to Georgia. 3 to 5 feet of surge as it goes off to the Atlantic, comes back. So yeah, even South Carolina, 2 to 4 feet. Rainfall, 5 to 12 inches, with some areas getting as much as 18 inches across central Florida and portions of North Florida through Thursday. The storm has moved a little bit slower than initially projected, but remember, do not get wetted into the cone. They're telling you not to focus too much on this cone projection. It could wobble either way, and I think one of the things that's been good is a lot of these folks down in Southwest Florida, like in Lee County and in Charlotte, they're used to seeing the wobble end up going south, and so you've had a lot of people that have evacuated from some of those barrier islands. But the range could be north or south of Tampa Bay. That's what I've been saying. Wherever it makes landfall, there's going to be impacts far beyond what the cone actually shows. And there's a hospital in Tampa Bay. That's on an island, and they built this 15-foot, I think it's, or 12-foot, 15, or it's like a wall to keep the water out, and it worked in the past, but they're worried about it holding for this one. They put all the patients on the higher floors already, but I was like, wow. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, information on this site, the Orlando Sentinel. Okay, that was yesterday. That was 16 hours. DeSantis press conference on this, but that was yesterday. Let's see. Yeah, that's old news. So basically, that's what we're dealing with here. It's a 4 now. They say it's going to be a 5 this afternoon. Then drop back down to a 4 and a 3 when it makes landfall. But we'll see how this goes. Just got to wait and see now. "24 hours from now, we'll get a better, much better idea where this thing is going, how strong it'll be. Even by tonight, you get a more sense because, that cone will narrow a little bit and they'll have a better idea. But really by tomorrow morning, and I just hope people ain't waiting for the last minute. I wonder, let me see something if I could pick up this. So this is just an image, and this is as of this morning. People are getting out. This is a Florida traffic cam. So people are getting out. It's 75 and 4. 4 was right by my house. But all the cameras are showing major traffic. Look at this. So people are heeding the warnings and leaving. Here's another angle. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt 4 is the same way. I would have to look up 4. But yeah, traffic. Cameras list. Okay, that's the rest area. Let's do I-4 traffic. That corridor is going to get hit too. That's old. Okay, here we go. Doesn't look too bad. Not too bad. The ones I'm looking at. And they got terrible access. New York is so much easier. Traffic jam near Kissimmee. Oh my God, that's so old. That's horrible. I'm better off using an app that shows traffic. I mean, really. Okay, this is Orlando. I'll be honest, I don't miss Florida at all. I don't miss it. Oh my God. I-95, I-4 stalled vehicle. These are all accidents. Oh, what's this? This is live. I think DeSantis is speaking right now.
But then using it in the residential, however that is done with Kevin and his team, if that ends up being done, I think will be important because I think it can help people, but I also think it could be something that we could then utilize in a more significant way to protect against future storms.
Is this something that you're encouraging local governments to also invest in so that they have it on hand and not relying on the state?
Sure, but we also understand that just right now, that would be something that maybe they would do in a future hurricane season. We're not anticipating that they have very much to bring to bear now. That's mostly going to be driven by us, but it's fine. I mean, we always look for ways, what can we do to augment? This was something we introduced during Hurricane Debbie, which was not a storm on the level of Helene or Milton, but it did create surge, it did create flooding. And where that was used, it worked. It really did. It worked in Helene where it was used. I think it'll work in this storm as well. So we're going to have, 6 weeks, 8 weeks of practice on this, where we then can look and maybe incorporate this as part of a larger part of our hurricane prep and response efforts. I mean, think about it. Go back 5 or 6 years. It wasn't the norm to necessarily have 40,000 linemen staged. Now people expect that. That's what we do. I mean, we have the electrical co-ops. They've got over 4,000 linemen that they're bringing in. 10 years ago, the co-ops would never have brought in linemen, and they may get to 7,500. So these things create, I think, good momentum. People then want to utilize it, and it won't just be the state in the future. But right now, we're kind of the main show in town on that.
A lot of Florida natives I've spoken to have kind of seen this storm as kind of like a gut check. Usually these are the same people who will wait it out and have hurricane parties and stuff, but these people are now saying, this one I'm going to evacuate, I'm going to go. You've lived here almost your whole life. I mean, where does this storm leave you as a native Floridian?
Well, what it leaves me is, someone that grew up in Pinellas County. And we never got hit by a major hurricane when I was growing up. In fact, they really haven't been hit by a major hurricane directly in a long time. When we look at hurricane preparation for the state, we look at that landfall in the Tampa Bay area as potentially one of the most significant storms that we can face. And that's not just, we would say, what if a Category 5 hit? but even a strong Cat 3 in the storm surge. I mean, this is a vulnerable area to the surge. So this is not something that is that was not necessarily game plan for. This is the main thing that you game plan for. And I know Kevin, when he was the deputy, they were doing exercises on this event going in there. And it's just, I think people realize there are certain parts of the state that may handle some of this stuff better than other parts of the state. You know, I'm not saying you can't have surge in like the Panhandle, but it kind of surges. And if you're beyond that, Pinellas County is a peninsula. Tampa Bay, you have rivers, you've got all this stuff on the bay. There's just so much that surge can do. And so I think you don't want to have had Helene, but I think Helene also oriented people. If a storm 100 miles off the coast can lead to feet of storm surge, then what about a storm that goes directly in? And then I also think you have people who have kind of seen this, as I mentioned, when you go further south on the West Coast. Hurricane Charlie was supposed to be the gut check for Tampa. It went south. Hurricane Ian, I was in Pinellas County, I remember, 48 hours before Hurricane Ian. Everyone was ready. Then we went to Sarasota the next morning thinking, okay, maybe it's gone further south. And then it ended up going all the way down, making landfall in Lee County. So I think folks in Southwest Florida, places like Charlotte, Lee, I think they're like, okay, you can say that landfall is going to be in Bradenton Beach. And first of all, if that's the case, you're still going to get some impacts on that, and you could still potentially have serious surge even 100 miles down the coast. But it also could wobble further south, and we could even get a bigger impact. So I think Floridians, between those two, they kind of get it. Now, I'm also just looking at Pinellas County, place I've grown up. If you have a storm of this magnitude, it's not just, obviously we want to protect people. We want no loss of life. It will create a lot of property damage, but it's a type of storm that potentially can have an indelible impact on a community. There are some hurricanes we deal with that it stinks to have to deal with it. You kind of pick up and you move forward. Then there's other storms like a Hurricane Andrew, like a Hurricane Michael in Panama City, like Hurricane Ian in Lee County, that just leave a mark. And so I think people, when they see that 180 mile an hour, and I know it's weakened since then, and it's projected to be even weaker by the time it reaches, but that's not guaranteed. This has the potential to be a type of storm not only that presents danger right now, not only can have serious damage, but also can have kind of that indelible mark on a community. So we are praying for the best. I know a lot of people have had Floridians in their thoughts and prayers. There's no way we're going to get out from this in terms of not having an impact. If it could jog south and just go out somewhere, we would love. That's not going to happen. So let's pray that it's as weak as possible between now and then. But we are preparing for it to be as strong as possible, and that is exactly how our response is going to be today.
If you're just joining us this morning, that was a live press conference from Tallahassee with Governor Ron DeSantis, and he really highlighted, I think, the end.
And he was right on the money on what we just seen, that little segment. Pretty much well informed. He knows what he's talking about. Obviously, and that's what we've been talking about here. It's coming in west to east. This is not one that's going parallel. This is different. It's going in. So it's going to bring all that water, pushing all that water. This is a different type of scenario here. And that's exactly what he was saying. And yes, as I was saying earlier, it depends where that eye makes landfall. It could go further south and affect all those areas down more to the south. But because the wind field's going to be wide on this, it's going to affect a lot of people regardless. So you have to prepare. And like he said, it could wobble to the south. We don't know yet where this thing's going to make impact. Yeah, they're saying right now the Tampa Bay area, but what if it moves more to the south? What if it makes landfall down here? Then all these areas here get more impacted. And that's what he's saying. Or it could even jog a little bit more to the north. So you have to prepare for that. Because this isn't exact. This is a model. Doesn't mean that it's going to be right where the model says. Until the eye is approaching land, they'll have a much better idea whether it's going to make landfall. But until that happens, which is literally hours before it makes landfall, you have to prepare all these areas in the event that it wobbles and it goes somewhere else. So absolutely. Absolutely. Because just think, if this thing comes down further south, all these areas are going to get more affected because they'll be getting more of the stronger surge. But that's why the warnings are up like that. That's why they stretch. If you look at the storm surge, that's why it extends just north of Tampa all the way down to Englewood for 10 to 15 feet. But that could change if the storm, like he said, wobbles and goes further south, like his own personal experience that he described. Then you're talking about areas more to the south getting affected by the severe storm surge. And he said something else that was true. It's forecasted to be a strong Cat 3, but that doesn't mean it will. It could be a Cat 4. No, it's not going to be a Cat 5 when it hits Florida. So people that put that out there, no. If anything, it's going to be a strong Cat 3, maybe a Cat 4. I mean, you're talking Cat 5 is 157 higher, sustained. It could be a Cat 4, though. It could be 145, like it is now, which would be horrible. The Cat 3 forecasted is supposed to be 125 with gusts to 155. I mean, regardless, it's a major hurricane, like he said. He's well informed. He knows what he's talking about. He does his homework. He's got the experience. He's dealt with this before. The best person that could be there right now is DeSantis for the state, because he knows how to approach this. He knows how to deal with this. He knows how to get everybody, emergency personnel, management, utilities, everybody, all the infrastructure, everything that has to be done, the aftermath, the crews that have to come in. He's prepared. So if I was a Floridian in these areas, that would give me some, at least, I can't say comfort, but it would at least put maybe a little peace of mind in that way, that we have somebody that's going to manage this in the right way. Now it's up to us to do our part as residents. That if we live in these like flood A, these zone A, zone B areas, get out. Just get out. Do your part. Get out. Get to a safer area. You got to be nuts if you're going to stay on those islands. You got to be nuts. All those barriers, those strips. You got to be. I mean, there are crazies out there that don't care. They put their lives at risk. They're so much worried about the material value, not their lives. It's like, what are you going to do if your house is underwater? Like, you're there, you decided to stay. What can you do? You're going to save your house? How? By being there? And all these people, and this is the thing, when you, and the aftermath, the recovery effort, they have to use these resources to come and look for you or rescue you when they have so many other issues going on. Getting the power back, getting the roads open, clearing out the debris. You know, there's so much other things to get the things back, and it's going to take a long time. But to send the resources out when you should have left in an evacuation zone, and now we got to come and get you. You know, the responders, now they got to use those resources to deal with that. When they told you should have left. So, I don't know. And, you know, there's crazy people that have parties, hurricane parties. They think it's a fun. The last thing I want to be is inebriated, drinking, or whatever, in the middle of a hurricane like this. Oh, I'm going to get stoned. I'm going to drink. I'm going to party. Are you crazy? You have to have your bearings. It makes you like shake your head, like what's wrong with people? And I'm not saying this is it's a small number, but there are people that do that. They think it's fun. How many times have you seen people go out in the rip current and try to surf? Or even from the shore, you see them going up into the water, you know, shallow, but that's so life-threatening, dangerous. But yet they do it. Because, you know, they might be filming it on TikTok. Look at me, look. And they're risking their lives. That's just stupid and foolish. There's a lot of young people. I just can't imagine with their parents, if they even knew or seen them even doing something like that. Or why are the parents allowing them to even do that in the first place? Now, like I said this in the past many times, if it was me alone and I'm in my house and there's a storm coming and they're telling me I need to go. Now, do I put the people I love at risk in my house? It's one thing to answer for myself. It's another thing to put other people's lives at risk. I have to be out looking out for them, for their best interest. Even though I might want to stay, you know what? For the betterment of the whole and the safety for the unit, we need to all go. It's that simple. If you have a family, how could you endanger your family in a situation like this? Because you want to stay. So irresponsible. And people and Ronald, a friend of mine, when he was here when we had the tornado, he knows, and he'll be the first one to say, and some others that were here when we had the tornado, one of the first things I did was go to my neighbor to make sure they were okay. Neighbors. You have to look out for your neighbors too. If you have an elderly person or a person that's ill or, you know, they're not well, go check on them. They may not be leaving. Do you need to get out? Do you need somewhere to take you? These are your neighbors. Can you imagine a senior that has no family? Or has family but doesn't live in that area? Because I know a lot of people, myself included, that have elderly family there, but they have their family spread out all over the place in Florida, or even like me here. We're too far to be with them. But my family members in Florida would say, do you need to stay here? Do you want us to pick you up and bring you here until this storm is over? That's the right thing to do. Oh man, it's a pain to go drive all the way there just to get her or him. Really? Is that your answer? And it's kind of getting too late for it now. Because even though the hurricane makes landfall, all that wind and rain and tropical force, the winds are going to pick up. Everything's going to turn quick. By tonight, they'll be feeling the impacts. Starting to feel the impacts. If they haven't already. Which bands, I haven't looked. I got to go get my car inspected. But my gosh, it's not just about helping yourself. You need to help others as well that need that help. That's the cats. So please, if you're in this situation and you're still there, and you know you have a neighbor, knock on their door. Are you okay? Are you looking to leave? I can drop you at a shelter. Do you have another place to go? Or are you going to stay here? Do you have everything you need? Because you can't force people to leave. Really. Which is another question for itself. If it's mandatory, it's mandatory. But yet people still stay. Because they have that choice to stay. So that makes it kind of like voluntary, mandatory evacuations. It's not exactly the word mandatory. Because if it was mandatory, everybody goes. Mandatory means all, not you decide to stay. But that's voluntary. So you might just as well say it's a mandatory voluntary evacuation. So there are people that stay, even though it's mandatory. You know that. There are people that stay. I'm not leaving. You can't force them. They make that choice. But at that same choice, when they make that choice, at the same time when they make that choice, you decided to stay, so we're not going to be able to get to you until this is over. You decided to stay. That's it. You made that choice. We told you it was mandatory, but you stayed. Well, now you're in for it for the long haul until it's over. That's it. Well, like I said, if there's an elderly person, a retiree who lives in one of these houses, because I have a lot of family that went to Florida when they retired, and that was their dream to go down to Florida, including my mom when she bought the house, and that was going to be a place until we sold it because I couldn't stand it and came back up here. But that's a whole different story. But there's a lot of people that are elderly down there. And they retired there. And they're alone. And maybe they don't have family. So, if it was me, 'cause that's just the way I am, I'd be going around the immediate, the people that I know, like I do here. Do you need my help? I call my neighbors call me. I call my neighbors. It's happened during live streams. Bill, I need your help. Can you come? I'll be right there. 5 minutes. That's how it should be. Looking out for each other. Plus, it creates a stronger knit community when the community is looking out for itself as an overall perspective, because it's good to have that. When the community is looking out, like, listen, I'm going on vacation for a week. Can you keep an eye on my house? Sure. And they do. I'm in charge of the house over there. The guy lives in New York. I've been living here for 18 years. He had a tenant in there, which was the son of they were living there. My neighbor's son and his wife were living up there. They maintained the property till they moved out and bought their own house 8 years ago. Ever since that, I've been running that house. If anything happens, he calls me. Bill, can you check this out? If you can't fix it, just let me know and I'll call somebody to have. That's what happens. So I am like the overseer of what goes on in that house. They call me. The tenants, they call me. They don't call him. They call me. Then I call him. So I'm like the middle person. That's a lot of trust that person that lives in New York City has with me monitoring his house. That's what it's about. So it's important to have that. You may not like your neighbors. You may not talk to your neighbors. I mean, it may be just, hey, how you doing? But when things hit the fan, people need to come together and help each other. Especially regardless of partisan political opinions. Don't let that get in the way of helping someone. Oh, that person's just a Democrat. I don't want to help them. Please don't even go there. These are human beings. They're your neighbors. Please don't do something like that. But I'm sure there are people that do that too. So we're all supposed to be helping each other regardless. In a situation like this, you help each other. All that other shit is put to the side. That's petty. This is about life and death, potentially. And caring for one another. We're all citizens. Well, I may have to recorrect that one. But you know what I mean. I'm going to get myself in trouble now. But just help each other. If you can, if you're in that situation in Florida. And you're watching this. Check your neighbor. Call people. Get on the phone. If you're still there. I'm leaving. Do you need to go? I have room in my car. If you need to go. Even if they say no, at least you did the right thing in even asking. The moral, the ethical, the principle of doing something like that is the right thing to do. Even if they say no, at least you did it. That's the way I look at it. Anyway, I need to go. I got to get my car inspected. And I got a lot of work to do all day. So I may be back later on tonight. I've got busy day today. But I'll be keeping an eye on this. But by tonight, definitely have a better idea of what's going to happen here moving forward. Like DeSantis said, it's going to make impact somewhere in Florida. It's not like it's going to start to go east and below to the, even if it went that way, it's going to hit the Keys. But there's no way this is going to miss the west coast of Florida and go over Florida into the Atlantic. It's going to affect somewhere in there. I love what DeSantis said. He kept it real, straight, direct, blunt. Put it out there. I have utmost respect of what DeSantis just said when we watched it, just a few minutes that we did. So, Florida, you're in great hands with your governor, in my opinion. Anyway, God bless everybody. Be well, be blessed, be safe. And those still suffering from Helene, thoughts and prayers go out to you, your friends, your family, your neighbors, all that. And of course, the people that in Florida are about to be impacted by Hurricane Milton. So I need to get out of here. I got to go get my car inspected. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Be